Paul is calling for empathy among the congregation of believers in Romans chapter 12. Since we all have been sad and happy in certain situations, we need others to share our feelings. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Tuesday. Besides our necessary actions toward others around us that need to be a blessing and not a curse, Paul also speaks to our actions within the body of believers toward one another. He says in Romans chapter 12 and verse 15, "Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep." We all need to be able to feel with others and share their feelings no matter what they might be. This is the practice of empathy. It's not sympathy where we're simply sharing their condolences. Empathy is really to be responsive in a way that shows compassion and it shares another one's feelings, no matter what kind of circumstances they're facing or what kind of circumstances we're in, for that matter. When Paul calls to the Christian to rejoice with those who rejoice, we may find that difficult to do, especially when we're not rejoicing the same way that they are over things. Sometimes when someone gets some good news or they even receive something that brings them great joy, we might tend to be jealous because we aren't experiencing the same good news, or we might not even get that same material blessing that they've received. But although our tendency might be drawing us toward jealousy or even harboring some hard feelings toward those who are rejoicing over something, we must show that empathy that brings us to feel the same way that they feel. When another person is rejoicing, they would like for others to rejoice with them. Likewise, he says, weep with those who weep, meaning our compassion should bring us to care for others whenever they're hurting in some way. It is so odd, and I suppose human nature, to be more likely to weep with others than it is for us to rejoice with those who rejoice. We may not be able to give people all the answers that they're seeking in difficult times when they wonder why they have to endure such heartache. But the most important thing is that we just be there for them in times that they're facing that might bring tears or even anger over their circumstances. Job's friends had the right idea in the first place. They did a great job. Whenever Job was grieving, they came from long distances. They traveled together to be with him, and they sat for 7 days and 7 nights to grieve with him over his great losses. Unfortunately, then they began to accuse him of wrongdoing and explain his woes. But in the beginning, they did the right thing. Paul doesn't always say to bring answers or even to share our own feelings. He simply says to rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. And we would do well to practice this kind of empathy with our fellow brothers and sisters in the Lord so that we might share in what they're feeling.